Was 30 grand to do all the build out. Each ad is $20 a day. 31.5 credit hours in 11 weeks was the most I did.
Beautiful.
Dustin McIver. I am a chiropractor. Office is Northside Chiropractic. This is my second location. I opened up my first, which was called McIver Chiropractic Center, back in August 12th, 2013. And then I sold that office 1 month shy of 5 years, and then relocated to the Grand Rapids area, and we've now been in this location for over 5 years. So just celebrated my 10th year in practice.
Can you tell us the backstory of how you got into this field?
Yeah, so I always knew I wanted to do something in healthcare, but I knew medicine wasn't it. I just, talking to patients, never putting your hands on them, not just basically giving them a drug to make a symptom go away, just never really vibed with me. So my wife's chiropractor, she'd been going to him ever since she was 2 or 3 years old. So I went out and had lunch with him one day, just talked about the profession. And I always say I got lucky with chiropractic because I didn't really realize how much it aligned with my values and what I wanted to do until I actually got to the school. That lunch meeting was great, but once I got into school and you start going through the classes, you start getting dipped in the philosophy, it was just like, oh, I didn't realize that this was exactly what I was looking for. So I feel like I got really lucky with chiropractic. I found it, and it kind of found me in a weird way because I got to be involved in healthcare and literally do exactly what I wanted to do within it. I just didn't know at the time that chiropractic was going to be that avenue to allow me to do that.
What made you decide to branch out on your own versus going into another office, or what tools did you need to start?
So I joined a practice management group while I was still in school, which I wouldn't say I don't recommend, but like a lot of graduate programs, you don't really get taught a lot of the business aspect. So finding something that taught you how to do business, how to run the office, your day one, your day two, your bookkeeping, how to hire people, staff, that was really appealing. So I did go that route. Everything in retrospect, hindsight's 20/20. Looking back on it, I wouldn't do that route again, but I also am glad that I did it because it taught me a lot of things. So where I am now, I don't know if I would be exactly where I am had I not gone that route. So spent some money to do that. It was a good thing at the end of the day. I always knew that I wanted to work for myself. I never wanted to be an associate. So kind of talk inside baseball and chiropractic. Most associate docs are going to go into an office hoping to learn the business side of things from the main doc so that they can go out and open up their own office. What typically happens, and not in every situation, chiropractors watching, but in a lot of situations, chiropractors kind of eat their young. The associate chiropractor normally doesn't get to learn all of the inside business ins and outs on what they were hoping to learn. They end up usually just seeing the patients that the other doctor didn't want to see, working the hours the other doctor didn't want to work, and having to do screenings on the weekend and things like that. So I always knew I wanted to be kind of my own boss. I wanted to set the schedule. I wanted to run the office exactly how I wanted to be run. Some more points that I'll get to here in a little bit, but authenticity is huge. If you are not your authentic self in your office, people are gonna feel that. People are gonna pick up on that. So to run an office and be in an office that you just don't really jive with, because that's what the chiropractor, the main doc, wants you to be doing, it could set you up for success or it could set you up for the exact opposite. So I always knew in my heart how I wanted it to be, what the vision was on how I saw it going, and I knew that going into another office and being an associate just wasn't going to be the avenue to do that.
Can you talk about the investments that you had to make to get an office like this?
So outside of what it would cost to go to school, obviously, and I can get into that if you want, but for the opening of the actual business side of things, my first office, we were in Ionia, Michigan, downtown, right across from the theater, historic. The building, I believe, was built in 1887. So long, narrow, but needed some work. At that time I took x-rays, so I had to get an x-ray unit in there. We had to lead all the walls, the ceiling, because there was apartments upstairs. I almost made me do the floor because it was a basement. So there was a lot going into that one. So I believe the loan that we took out from the bank was 30 grand to do all the build out. Me and my dad did all of it, so we didn't have to hire out a lot other than electrical and plumbing and things like that. But we got about 30 grand into that office to get it up and running. And again, 2020, hindsight, not the year. When I sold that office and then opened up this one, I kind of learned a lot from what I did what I didn't want to do in the future. So this office, I actually opened up very, very cheaply, negotiated the rent. We got them to do the floors for us. This isn't exactly how I would have set up this office. I would have rearranged it a little bit differently. My consult room, the exam room is way too big for what I need it to be. I wish I had a little bit more areas out here, but knowing what I knew I could get away with it being just like this. I could grow in this space before I would outgrow it and have to move. So the startup on the first one was about 30 grand. If we just want to look at what I took out from the bank. Startup on this one was almost nothing because I knew what I wanted to do. I negotiated the rest out and I was able to make this space work. So really I was just looking for a space that kind of fit and checked all of those boxes on what would I need to do the bare minimum to in order to basically open up.
What are some of the weekly, monthly expenses that come with this business?
You can make your overhead as much or as little as you want. I look at overhead, a lot of people look at overhead as what does it take me to just keep the lights on, which I think is a stupid way to look at it because just keeping the lights on, you can pay for electricity, gas, yada, yada. I can open the doors, but if the office is not providing for you, like who cares that you're got the lights on. So my overhead is still very, very low, but I look at it as what does the office need to do to fund my life, my family? What do I need it to pay for? That's how I look at overhead. Obviously, there's gonna be the day-to-day stuff of, you know, the printer is out of toner and I need more patient files and the odds and ends, things like that. But for the most part, my overhead is incredibly low. I got a really good deal on the space because of the time that we got it. So overhead is actually considerably low. I have friends in other states and other areas that their overhead is astronomically high just because rent alone to start off, they're looking at 4 to 5 grand just to pay for the space. Then if you have multiple staff members, the training that goes into the staff members, all the other things that can go into it, you can get your overhead up really, really high. And I always tell everybody, start off as low as you possibly can because the money's gonna start coming in, it's gonna start feeling good, but then you realize that the expenses are gonna start coming in too. There's always an expense that you're not thinking about. There's always something that's about to break. There's always maybe an upgrade that you didn't know, malpractice insurance, this, that, like keep your overhead as low as you possibly can. You can always scale up. It's very difficult to scale down once you got those investments in. So I always tell everybody, start as low as you possibly can. You can grow, start what's comfortable.
Do you have any employees or would you recommend getting any employees?
Yes, I have one CA. Now, I am not in network with any insurance office. I am considered a cash or an out-of-network practice. So I have friends that have 10 employees, 1 main doc, 2 associate docs. Everybody else is just a chiropractic assistant, which we call CAs. And if you take insurance, they are pretty much on the phone calling on somebody's behalf all day. It's an absolute nightmare and I knew I never wanted to do it. So I have 1 CA. I ran this office for probably 6 months when we opened up the second location just on my own because I was closing and selling that one. So I was there a couple of days a week and then popping over here a couple of days a week. So I opened this office the exact opposite of how you're supposed to. I wasn't able to do any marketing to get this thing up and running. Just kind of threw up the sign, threw open the door and said, I'm here, but had absolutely no following at that point. So I was able to adjust and go and work the front desk back and forth for about 6 months until I grew in volume that I couldn't do that anymore. I will always say, hire somebody sooner than you think you actually need to. The worst thing you can do is get yourself to a point that you absolutely have to hire somebody, and then you're forced to hire somebody that might not be a perfect fit. You want to allow yourself some time to actually find the right person. Get everybody on the bus that you need to be on the bus, figure out where they're going to sit later. Hire before you think you're going to need to. Even if you're thinking about like in 3 months, I might need to hire somebody, start that process right then to give yourself that 3 months to get somebody hired. So I have 1 CA. In my previous office, I had 2. One worked part-time and she was really taking over for a lot of the stuff my wife was doing behind the scenes. Once we started having kids, it just got more difficult for her to do it. So I did have a part-time CA, but I have there's 1 doc, 1 CA. We run this show and we do very well at it. Again, keeping your overhead very low.
What do you do for some of your advertising? How do you get clients?
In 2013, when I started, if you're familiar with the city of Ionia, when I showed up to that town, actually people said, what works the best is gonna be something called the Shopper's Guide. It's literally a coupon book, if you will, that gets mailed out every Saturday or Sunday morning. And I was blown away that, you know, paper products still worked in 2013, but everybody said it's one of the best things that they do. So while all my other friends are trying to figure out, you know, Instagram and all this other stuff, Yelp reviews, and I'm actually running paper ads in this Shopper's Guide. And it worked. My clientele back then was a lot older. I would get a lot more Medicare patients off of that, which, you know, no surprise, the ones reading the actual newspaper. There was a local radio show that I would go on every once in a while and just talk about what it is that I did. But one of the main reasons I sold that office is because it constantly felt like you were swimming upstream, because Ionia is a bit of a drive from anything else. If I would do any external marketing, you know, going to a chamber event, somebody's got an event going that you can put up a booth. People acted like Ionia was like China, like it was so far away. It was like somebody in Lowell's, it's like, oh my gosh, I gotta drive all the way to Ionia. It's like, you drive to Grand Rapids for everything else, but for some reason there was just kind of that barrier. So I either had to create things, you know, like a wellness expo, where I would have to try to figure out, maybe I'll have people in my office and vendors in my office and we'll do like a ladies' night. That got really tiresome after a while. So when I decided to sell that office, that was a big driving factor for it, in that I knew there were things that I could do marketing that were going to just be better in a larger market like Grand Rapids, which is ultimately what I ended up doing. The biggest thing for me is, I don't know if you know this, but chiropractic adjustment has become cool over the last couple of years. People love watching it on YouTube. They love watching it on TikTok. So when COVID hit and things really ramped up with that, the group that I run with, it's a chiropractic adjusting group. It's called Kairos Training Culture. Go and check it out on YouTube, Brett Jones. We basically said, if people are looking for this on YouTube and they're wanting to watch the chiropractic adjustment, the artistry that is the technique, why not local people in our community? Why not they find us? So we were always told in school, do not film yourself and put it online, because people will take it out of context and say you're doing something that you're not actually doing. And because it's online and you're not there, you can't defend yourself. You can't say like, no, that's not what I was doing at all. I was doing this and this is why. Do not do it. Well, it got cool. Some people started doing it, so we leaned into that. And if they're gonna be looking for it on YouTube, they might as well find us. So I started running Facebook ads probably June or July of 2020, when everything was shutting down. I just started running ads and figured if people are gonna find it, I want them to find me. So that slowly started, well, actually not slowly, it was kind of garden hose got opened up on that. I think the first month that I did that, we had over 30 new patients just off of Facebook leads. And now it is easily the #1 thing that I do. Chiropractors in Grand Rapids were not doing this at the time. I was the first one to really show the adjustment and start making videos explaining what it is I was doing. Now pretty much everybody is doing it, which obviously, why wouldn't you? Because it's really good. For what you spend on a Facebook ad, you're gonna get a lot more off of it. Now, I've taught other people how to do it and it fails miserably because they don't have something that is gonna make you stop and watch it. Again, the chiropractic adjustment became cool. So I can show something like an occiput lift in the first 3 to 5 seconds and get somebody to go, what in the heck was that? And they're gonna stop and watch my video. So Facebook ads have been very, very profitable for me, and they've really boosted my office, especially in a time where everything seemed to be shutting down. We were actually really growing in 2020 by making the strategic changes in our marketing. And now it is primarily the only thing that I do, outside of obvious search engine optimization and making sure the website and all the hits and the backlinks and everything like that. But that's just stuff that any business should be doing. What separated me was I've now become known as that guy that knows how to adjust. And oh, you're that guy. I got people driving from Detroit. I got people driving from 3-4 hours away. Do you have hotels near your office? I'm gonna take a bus to you. Like, somehow people are just finding these videos. I don't know how, but they're finding them, and I've kind of gotten that. That's just my thing, I guess. I do not anymore, and I used to, but I do not anymore go to the women's expo, go to the marathon thing, set up the booth. I do not do any of that anymore. Time is very, very valuable for me. So if I can have something that is running that I like doing, I love the creativity of making these videos and showcasing new things and talking to the audience. I love doing that, and people really like watching it. So right now, that is virtually the only thing that I'm doing outside of search engine optimization and some other simpler things.
Can you say how much you spend monthly on Facebook ads?
So when I first got going, before 2020, if I tried to run a Facebook ad, I would do like, let's boost this post. It seemed like it was doing pretty well. It got some views, and I would throw on like $5 a day and run it for 7 days or something like that. That doesn't work. Don't do that. Even what I'm about to tell you, you would have to tweak a little bit, because how I run the ads in 2020 is different than how I run them now. But now I have at least 3 to 4 ads going at all times. Each ad is $20 a day, and I just let them run. And for some people, I know that might seem like a lot, and believe me, it seemed like a lot when I first started doing it. But I keep track every single month to see how much have I spent on Facebook ads, how much has it brought in me. If a new patient comes in off of that Facebook ad, did they sign on for care? Did they refer somebody in. I wouldn't have had that referral had it not been for this person off of the Facebook ad. So I track a lot of statistics, getting into the nitty gritty to see, is this still profitable? Is my return on my investment gonna be good off of that? People that are just running, I'm gonna throw $3 or $4 or $5 on this thing and run it for a couple of days, don't bother. Keep your Starbucks money. It's not gonna work. Even when I did it for 10 bucks a day, I did not get very good traction. I've even thought about increasing it over 20, but for me right now, 20 is the sweet spot. But again, don't just do that, because if you don't have something or you don't know how to edit your thing in a way that's gonna get somebody to stop and watch it, that still could fall flat on its face and be a waste of your money. I won't get into it, but I've done a lot of trying to figure out what I can do within Facebook based off of the chiropractic side of it. Every business is gonna be a little bit different, so you can't just carbon copy my ad and expect it to work for you, even if you're spending the same amount of money. But yeah, I spend 20 bucks a day on each ad and they just run. And that was incredibly terrifying to do, because that was a huge dollar for me when I first started doing this, but the return on the investment has been absolutely huge. So
then for charging your clients, is it different for every client? Are there flat rates, or is it project based? How does it look?
So I sell basically two things in this office. I sell an exam, I sell an adjustment. If you come into my office for day one, depending on how you found me, you can get a discount on the exam. Like I run them for half off for anybody coming in off of Facebook. And then there's the adjustment cost. I am not trying to sell you pillows. I'm not trying to sell you supplements, fancy this or that. I know all about them. If you want to talk to me, but the ball's in your court. When you come into this office, you know the number one most important thing is the adjustment. That is what you came for. That's what I train on. That's the be all end all. So I do not sell anything in this office other than the exam and the adjustment. Depending on after the first day, I figure out what it is that I want to do, what my recommendation would be. You come back in for day two and I present it all. I show you the exam findings, what it is that I saw, how it correlates to what you told me, and then I give you a game plan. 30 visits 2 times a week. It might be 48 visits 2 times a week. And then I can break it down into, again, an adjustment is $45. The re-exams are $75. This is what it would break down to if you paid monthly. This is what it would break down to if you paid bi-weekly. But you know exactly what you are spending your money on in my office. Because I don't take insurance, there's not all these weird little, well, I thought I paid this, but the insurance didn't pay for that, so now I'm on the hook for the, you know exactly what you're getting in my office. I can tell you right down to the penny what you are going to be spending. There's no secrets. You're not gonna get a magical bill that you didn't know was showing up like the dentist does to me sometimes. Not happening.
What does a typical day-to-day look like?
A typical day-to-day. So I wake up at 4:30 every day, 7 days a week. I'm somebody that thrives on routine. I like to do certain things in the morning to prepare myself for the day, even if it's a quote unquote day off. I still get up 5 or 4:30 on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because I like the routine aspect of it. There is some form of meditation, breath work, just some form of a morning routine that just kind of gets me right mindset mentally, right mindset physically. There is some training that I will go through that is very specific in order to be able to deliver an adjustment. Chiropractors hurt themselves all the time. It is a physical and adjustment when you're seeing high volume. I mean, we're seeing 250 people a week. If I am not prepared to see that, once you start seeing a lot of people, you start getting tired, your form starts to slip, and now the elbow comes out a little too far. Now you're hurting yourself. So I do very specific exercises in the morning to stretch and train the certain things that I know I'm gonna be utilizing the most. So that's how my morning starts. I am in the office Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 8 to 12, 3 to 6. Tactically, we're here 3 to 7. I always save the 6 o'clock hour for new patients or reports, just because I can't. If you need an afternoon appointment, we're so busy, I can't get you in at 3 or 4 o'clock. It's gonna have to be at the end of the day. So the website still says 6 o'clock, but really I'm here till 7. I do not work Tuesday mornings. I do not work Fridays. I don't work Saturdays, don't work Sundays. We said before my kids were even born, Friday was gonna be Family Friday. We did have to work Friday in the initial beginning because everybody was a new patient. But once we started to trickle through the new patients, we started getting more people on the adjustment schedules. We cut Friday out as soon as we possibly could. Then when we had my oldest daughter, Tatum, that's what we did. We just went to Frederick Meyer Gardens. We went to the zoo. So I will never work on Fridays. People ask me all the time, will I ever open up on Fridays? No, I'm not gonna open up Fridays. Again, time's really valuable to me. The typical day once I get into the office is I try to get here a half hour just to kind of set the space. If you've been here, you know I'm either gonna be doing the Palo Santo or Sage in the office, making sure that I kind of cleanse the space, getting it smelling good, go through some warm-ups, some drills just for the adjusting side of things. mornings, and then 8 o'clock, people start trickling in, and we're pretty much going from 8 to noon, noon till 3. I am either running some kind of an errand for the office, whether I gotta go pick something up, run to the post office, but definitely going to the gym. I look at the gym very differently than I used to. I used to like just going to the gym because I liked going to the gym, and now I look at it as I have to go to the gym, because if I slack on the gym, that is how I get injuries in here. So the gym is always in the routine, it's always in the day, the schedule, because it's a necessity at this point. If you have a physical job, you have to be doing very specific things within the job in order to make sure that you can do it long term. So it looks different than what it used to be, but the gym is always I gotta. And then we're back at 3 o'clock, rounding out the afternoon, seeing patients. And then whether I'm leaving at 6 or 7 o'clock, it's heading home to the family. We homeschool, so Tuesday mornings, I'm homeschooling my kids. Friday, I'm homeschooling my kids. They are usually awake by the time I get home, but I get to see them before they go to bed, read them a story, have dinner or something like that. But then I'm trying to get to bed by 9 o'clock because I'm old and I get up at 4:30, so.
What are some of the adjustments that you have to do for others? What's like one of the most popular ones, and what are some that people want to do but you can't do?
Yeah, so I talked earlier about the chiropractic adjustment became really cool on YouTube. One of the big things was the Y strap. It's called that because it's Y-axis traction. You'll see people doing it with a towel and things like that. I always tell people the Y strap can be a very, very good tool. I just look at every technique as I'm just putting tools in the toolbox, and then whoever lays on my table, I need to figure out which tool I need to pull out for that person. The Y strap can be a very effective tool, but people need to realize that YouTube videos are designed to get YouTube views, not necessarily showcase exactly how this was taking this person from point A to point B. You don't need to have it look like this huge dramatic thing. I mean, sometimes they get it where it looks like they're just dragging somebody halfway across the table. It doesn't need to look like that at all, but people are gonna stop and watch that. So for me, getting out of school, very philosophically sound, I wanted to talk about the function of the human body. That's what chiropractic is all about. If your brain can properly communicate with itself, its parts, it should be working how it was designed to work. But if your parts, your organs, your tissues, whatever it may be, are disconnected from the source, things are gonna malfunction. If things malfunction long enough, that's what we call symptomatology. Most people walking around in the United States are talking about pain. That's their biggest symptom. From a philosophical standpoint, I don't like talking about pain at all because that's it's a small percentage of what your nervous system is even dedicated for. So from a chiropractic standpoint, I didn't want to talk about that. I wanted to talk about the overall functionality of their entire system. It's like going to the bank and robbing it and trying to just take quarters when you should be taking the bills. We want to talk about the functionality. But from an advertisement standpoint, you've got to get out of your damn way and realize you've got to meet people where they're at. So a lot of my ads are talking about the neck pain, the back pain, the headache. I got a video that runs the Y strap. People come in off of it all the time. And then it is my job to kind of walk them back from that. And I go, hey, I realize that you think that that looks really good, but your system might not be a type of a system that I would even do that particular adjustment on. Your system would actually respond better over here. So meeting people where they're at in your advertisement, as much as you might want it to be this, you got to recognize that these people might be here. You got to figure out how to bridge the gap within that. That's why I do free consultations. So people can come in and just sit down and talk with me. Hey, I saw this on your video. Do you think this is something that could help me? It never costs anything to come in and talk about it. If you want to go through the exam, we get going on the exam. But if you go, oh, okay, that's not what I thought chiropractic was, I guess this isn't for me. We just shake hands and we part ways and we say good luck to each other. But you got to meet people where they're at, especially in advertisement, because you might go, we should be talking about this and people should care about this, but really they're over here. How do you bridge that gap, and what can you do in your marketing to bring those two things closer together is the heart of it.
Have you had some really good success stories that stuck out?
Probably my favorite, this was when I was in Ionia. I was doing essentially career day at the high school. So I had my booth set up. Students are coming, just learning about what chiropractic is. And I was giving my talk, kind of a talk I just gave on the functionality side of things. And one of the teachers comes up and she's like, all right, that's not what I thought chiropractic was at all. She was just trying to get kids to, come up and listen to me. And then she heard my spiel and was like, that's not what I thought it was. And she said, I have gastroparesis. Do you know what that is? Gastroparesis is basically paralysis of the stomach. Should take the stomach 3-4 hours to move food out of it. It took hers like 19 or 20. Diagnosed at 13. I met her when I think she was 25, 26, and she was going to U of M. They're writing research papers on her. They were doing Botox injections into the stomach. First one worked, sort of, kinda. Second one didn't do anything. And then I think it was the week or two before this career day, they essentially were like, well, since the second one didn't work, we're gonna do, they're gonna try Viagra. Their thought process is, getting more blood to it potentially would maybe get it working again. So she was pretty frustrated and was like, I don't think they know. I think they're kind of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. So she decided to give me a shot. So we got going with her. The most important area of the spine is at the very top, the top 2 bones of your neck. It's where your brainstem sits. Brainstem controls your entire autonomic nervous system. Basically all the stuff you don't have to think about, your digestive system, respiratory, lymphatic, reproductive, that's all being controlled here. This is educated mind. Memory, language, thought. But if you hear a loud noise, you instinctively drop your head and you raise your shoulders because it's ingrained in your DNA to protect your neck at all costs. You don't cover the brain, you don't cover the heart, you drop head, you raise shoulders, protect neck. What your body's specifically doing is it's trying to protect its brainstem. So this right here is life. You have cranial nerves that originate from the brainstem. One of the most important ones is called the vagus nerve. Vagus means wandering. Vagus nerve takes off from the brainstem and just kind of starts going down into the gut. In the medical world, gastroparesis is there's bad information going from the brain down through the vagus nerve to the stomach. That's why it's not functioning appropriately. And then in the chiropractic philosophy, it's like, no, there's never bad information, it's miscommunication. There must be something interfering with the brain's ability to properly talk to its stomach because it should be working how it was designed to work. So we got going with her, making very specific adjustments to the upper cervical spine. I always give her all the credit because her symptoms got way worse before they get better. You never get to have a say as to how the body is going to heal itself. You just have to understand that by removing interference, the body will always be better off. How the body moves through that healing cycle is not up to me. It's not up to the patient. We all have a checklist on how we want things done. I want my headaches to go away first, then I want my low back, your body's got its own checklist. However your body did it was the correct way that it needed to be done. So certain things definitely can rev up before they start getting better. I mean, this woman had to eat like 10 really small portioned out meals throughout the day, very specific foods. If she deviated from that at all, it was like she had morning sickness, like she was pregnant, just like laying on a cold floor in the bathroom, just nausea and things like that. I always give her all the credit because her symptoms got worse before they got better. But she said, my body is doing something that it has never done since 13. So clearly something's going on. I need to see where this goes. So she wasn't feeling terrible this entire time, but 8 months after starting care, gastroparesis free. Like, stop going to U of M, stop doing all of it. She's had multiple kids at this point. I've met her parents. They're blown away that she can eat, cheeseburgers and just things that this kid wasn't able to do since 13. And she did all the tests, the radioactive eggs and the tube down the throat and all this. And it was as simple as your brain cannot communicate with its stomach appropriately because of fixations that are taking place in the spine. Remove those fixations, break that pattern so the system will return back to a state of normalcy. Get out of the way. Let the body go back to doing what it was designed to do. We always say in chiropractic, people have more faith in medicine than they do in the power that animates the living world. 2 cells came together and made your body. It made every single thing inside of it, therefore it knows how to maintain, regulate, and heal everything inside of it. It just does that process better connected at a state of balance than it does disconnected in a state of imbalance. That's probably my favorite case. There's been many infertility. I mean, there's been a lot of things over the last 10 years, but the gastroparesis was probably my favorite.
Do you have to go to school to be a chiropractor? And if so, how long do you have to go and what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got my bachelor's degree in biomedical science from Grand Valley. And then there's no chiropractic schools in the state of Michigan. So a lot of people go to Davenport, Iowa, just because proximity. I chose to go to Life University, which is in Atlanta, Georgia. In my humble opinion, there are only like 3 really good schools. There are schools that I would absolutely tell you not to attend. If you are thinking about being a chiropractor and you want to know what those schools are, find my information and I will tell you. There are schools that will train you to be terrible, in my opinion. They're awful. So if you're thinking about going, please contact me so I can steer you in the right direction. You want to go someplace that is going to talk vitalism. You want to go to a place that actually is going to teach based off of the foundation of what this profession was even founded upon. And a lot of the schools have gotten away from that because the people that have come in and started taking over some of these schools. There are certain schools that you want to go to and there's certain schools that you want to avoid. To go to chiropractic school, most do require a bachelor's degree. It hasn't always been that way because there were several states that you just needed a certain number of credit hours to start chiropractic school, but there are states that say in order to be a chiropractor, you have to have a bachelor's degree. So what they don't want to run into is somebody getting their hours, and the amount of hours needed is like 1 semester shy of getting the bachelor's degree anyway. So get the bachelor's degree just so you don't lock yourself into where you cannot practice. But there are states that like you gotta have a bachelor's degree, and if you didn't go that route, you might go like, oh, I just met somebody, we got married and we wanna move here, and then you're like, I'm a doctor of chiropractic, but because I don't have a bachelor's degree, I can't technically practice. Get the bachelor's degree, then go to chiropractic school. Chiropractic school takes 4 years. It's just as long as med school, just as much money. You're taking in the beginning like every class that ends in ology. It's intense. I took more exams the first 6 months at grad school at Life University than I did my entire Grand Valley career. It was a quarter system. So we were 11 weeks on, 1 week off, 11 weeks on, 3 weeks off. The most credit hours I was ever taking, because I wanted to get done in 3.5 years, which I did, 31.5 credit hours in 11 weeks was the most I did. It's insane. I don't recommend it, but it's just how the program is designed. You figure it out. It's all about time management. Of course, it's hard. There's a lot of classes that are hard, but you figure out which ones really need 80% of your time, which ones need 20% of your time. You figure it out, but it is all about time management. I probably lost a couple of years off my life doing that because it was intense. Sleepless nights, never saw my wife, but we got through it. But it is, you know, some people, the joke is like, oh, it's like a weekend of school. Like, I wish. You probably have better chiropractors as a result if we could knock it down to a 2-year degree and we only studied chiropractic instead of having to do and jump through all these hurdles, taking national boards and stuff like that to be primary care providers. If we could actually get this profession back to just chiropractic, you could crank out some amazing chiropractors in a 2-year time frame. But we got accrediting agencies, we got to go this way. So I had to do an entire pelvic exam because in 2 states I'm legally allowed to deliver a baby. I would never, even in that state, if they asked me to, because there's people that do that for a living. Like, I'm a chiropractor, but a couple of states I can do it. So I had to take those tests because it's on national boards and I had to take the classes. It's just how it is.
Do you have advice for any other entrepreneurs out there?
Number one, first and foremost, and this could be all 3 of them, be your authentic self. People crave authenticity. If you come into my office, you can tell very quickly that I'm probably not like other chiropractors, other doctors that you've been around. I adjust barefoot for the simple fact is I feel more grounded when I'm adjusting. So first thing I do is kick my shoes off. I used to look like the Express model, the mannequin. You know, the tight shirt, the dress slacks, the shoes, the tie clips. You can't move in it. Like, it's very restrictive and the tie's getting in the way. So eventually the tie went away. And then the shirt was too tight. Then that went to a polo. I thought the polo looked stupid. Then I went to a shirt. My shoes slide a little bit on the floor. I didn't feel grounded. I kicked the shoe, like, now I just wear this. It's the exact opposite of what you're told to do, but this is my authentic self. I can adjust and deliver the best adjustment wearing clothes that I can move in. So that's what I'm gonna do, because again, you're coming to me for the best adjustment you've ever had. I need to be able to deliver that. Authenticity. I don't do anything in this office that I don't like about another business, where you're told constantly, constant contact. Oh, you gotta be emailing once or twice a week. You gotta always just be in the forefront of your patients' minds or your customers' minds. That bugs the shit out of me. Things that I love, things that I've bought. If I get too many emails from them, I'll unsubscribe and kind of don't really want to do business with them anymore just because they're filling up my inbox. It just kind of annoys me. So my rule is, if it annoys me about another business, I absolutely do not do it in mine. I email my patients maybe twice a year. It's for 2 big events that we do, or if we lost power or I'm sick and I can't come in and I gotta let everybody know not to drive in. It's the only time they get an email from me. But those are all things that are authentic to me, and people crave authenticity. If you are not authentic, if you are trying to run your business because of this guru told you this mastermind class taught you this, it's gotta be done like this, but that doesn't feel right in your core, your clientele is absolutely gonna notice that. They are gonna pick up on that, and there's gonna be this weird thing in between you and them. They might not be able to pinpoint it, but what it is at the end of the day, it's they know you're not being authentic. You gotta be authentic. Second one, done is better than perfect. Procrastination is a huge thing. The worst form of procrastination is you got the motivation to do the thing, you just don't know how to do it 100%. And for you, it's gotta be 100% perfect before it's gonna get out there and be seen. Done is better than perfect. You will never accomplish anything if you're always waiting for it to be absolutely perfect. So yeah, maybe the camera's not the best. Maybe you gotta film it on your phone. Maybe you don't have a microphone right now. Maybe it's not, just do the thing. You can always improve on it, because if you wait until it gets absolutely perfect, by the time you got all the things and all the resources, things move so quickly, things are changing so often that this might not even be viable in a month from now, and then you're back to exactly where you started. Grow along with whatever it is that you're trying to do. Just do the thing. Do the thing, get it done, get it out there, then make tweaks, make changes, make things like that.